For more on all this, we speak to Kyle Coward. He's the freelance finance journalist out of Chicago. Welcome to the big show. Thanks a lot for joining us this evening. This Bitcoin thing, I have had a hard time getting my head wrapped around the purpose of Bitcoin. What is the main purpose of this?
Well, don't worry, because a lot of people are still trying to wrap their head around this. The purpose is that there are people who prefer to have a currency that is not regulated by any central government. They want that autonomy that doesn't come with that. I think a lot of people, particularly after the financial meltdown, were very leery about the Fed interfering with currency, interfering with their business. Some people thought the Fed might have accelerated or promoted some of the activities of the meltdown. So I think this currency gives a lot of people freedom from government regulations.
Okay, but cash gives people a lot of freedom. The euro gives people freedom. Owning a house gives you a lot of freedom. You could buy gold and silver. I mean, there are plenty of other options. This one, to me, the biggest asset is the fact you can be anonymous and do transactions in secret. I can buy guns or drugs or whatever I want, wherever I want with it. I mean, ultimately, isn't that what it's potentially going to be used for?
That's also what it could be used for. Those are valid concerns. I think there are qualities that are good about it, and there are some qualities that are we should be careful and watch. I don't think you can dismiss the illegalities that Bitcoins can facilitate.
Okay, if you're a fan of Bitcoin, there's some good news out there for you, because Canada is launching the world's first global publicly traded Bitcoin exchange. Explain to us, what does that mean?
Well, for me at least, I think it's if not a game changer yet, I think it's something that's very significant. The fact that you have this publicly traded company that is out there trying to facilitate this currency, I think perhaps that's a sign when you are about to be publicly traded, you're getting more of an audience for your product. Of course, it's going to depend on the mass consumption of Bitcoins if that actually happens. I think the success of that and other publicly traded companies that deal with that will ride on whether or not this can be a currency that is mass consumed.
So we've got the virtual currency here. Is this going to be the standard? I mean, are there going to be Bitcoins 2s and Bitcoin 3 I mean, why don't you and I start a business and we sell another different type of virtual currency? What's to stop other people who have a lot of resources to do that?
Well, there's nothing to stop that. I mean, this is probably the same reason why you had Bitcoins that were created in the first place. I mean, this could be something that facilitates the development of other currencies, of other transactions. And I think with Bitcoins, it's just another development of barter throughout time. This is just one of the latest developments. People were trading cowrie shells back in olden times, but I think this is just a transition and a development for some.
Okay, so let's say I'm convinced and I want to do this Bitcoin thing. I think this is a great idea. This is the best idea I've ever heard of. So I'm going to take all my money and I'm going to convert it all into Bitcoin. Who is out there in charge of making sure that, there's a structure that has to be in place, right, to protect money, essentially? I mean, who's in charge of it?
Well, because of the decentralized nature of the currency, no one really is in charge of it. I mean, you have exchanges that have their own rules and regulations, and some are better suited to handle that than others. Obviously, what we saw with Mt. Gox and the collapse of that, obviously that was not a good structure for Bitcoins. I think it definitely depends on the entity that is transacting that.
I think some critics would argue this is one of the best ways to launder money. Would you agree?
I don't think that they are off the mark. I'm not saying that's the only thing that would facilitate that.
But it can be used to launder money. It would be very effective, right? Because if I'm anonymous and you're anonymous and here we go and we do this transaction, they're never going to catch us.
Sure, indeed. And I mean, you have seen that. You saw that with Silk Road. You're seeing that with one of the investigations right now, one of the biggest investigations. I think it might still be ongoing in Australia regarding criminality and Bitcoins. There is that worry about that, and that's not something that can be taken lightly. But I think just with anything, particularly with technology, you can harness it for good or you can harness it for bad. It's up to you which one you choose to do.
All right, very cool stuff. One of these days, I'm going to go to one of these Bitcoin ATMs. I'm going to give it a go myself. Maybe you can help me with that. Kyle Coward, thank you very much for joining us this evening.